Hey, welcome to another episode of the Cannabis Man podcast. Thank you for clicking on the show. I'm Don Kleppen. If it's your first time here, this is a podcast where we try to take a journalistic look at all things cannabis as more and more states in the U.S. are legalizing. We just had two new states, Maryland and Missouri, add their names to the ranks of adult use cannabis markets across the U.S. That brings our total to 21. And we have some other state governors that are looking at or have already issued an executive order which are going to add medicinal cannabis to their state markets as well. So some very exciting developments. I'm going to talk about that this episode. Of course, I've got the news joint wrap as well, talking about Illinois news stories and some events coming up there, as well as my strain of the week, where I share with you the strain that I've been smoking on this week and try and give you a little taste idea of what that strain is like and whether or not I recommend it. I also, of course, have my guest interview this week. I'm talking with a surfer out in California who suffered a stroke a few years ago, and he takes us through what happened, what he remembers about that experience, which is pretty harrowing, and then tells about his recovery. And as he puts it, he went from half paralyzed to placing in a surf competition in just a handful of months, and that was with the help of CBD. And he's doing some recovery groups and some educational stuff because of that. And so he'll share his journey and a bit of what he's got going on now. So that's what I've got lined up for this episode. If you haven't already, go ahead and leave a rating or review for this show on whatever platform you're listening to the podcast on. If that might be YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whichever. I would really appreciate it if you could hit that 5-star rating or whichever amount of stars you feel fits the show that I'm putting out here. But either way, I much appreciate the ratings, and thank you to everyone who has thrown those out already. And with that, let's kick off this 31st episode of the Cannabis Man podcast. I'd like to get started this week with the News Joint Wrap. That's right, brought to you by IllinoisNewsJoint.com. Think of it as the joint you can hit for all your Illinois cannabis news and reviews. And let's start with an announcement from IDFPR, Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. They announced last week they've issued the first full adult use cannabis dispensing organization licenses to social equity applicants. From what I recall, there is an establishment that qualifies as social equity up in Rockford, but as far as I know, that's the only one in Illinois. But anyway, the social equity applicant license went to Ivy Hall, which is located at 1720 North Damon in Chicago. It's 61% African-American owned. The agency also issued a second applicant license to Green Rose. That is at 612 North Wells Street in Chicago. 15% Latino owned, 2.5% African-American. IDFPR to date has issued, according to the agency, 192 conditional adult use cannabis dispensing organization licenses from a series of lotteries in 2021 and 22. Full licenses will be given as IDFPR receives and reviews the applications for the full licenses before completing the mandatory on-site inspections as required by the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act here in Illinois. Of the businesses, according to IDFPR, that were selected through the lottery process, 41% are majority black-owned, 7% majority white-owned, and 4% majority Latino-owned. 38% of awardees did not disclose the race of their owners. To open, applicants still need to receive agent and agent-in-charge badges, create an account with the state traceability system, and place their first order for cannabis products. More exciting, though, is this quote from Governor J.B. Pritzker. Listen to this if you haven't heard it yet. Quote, "In the coming months, Illinois is set to more than double the number of cannabis dispensaries, with every single new license holder being a social equity applicant. With equity as our North Star, today marks the first step for retail cannabis operations to begin repairing the devastating harm caused by the failed war on drugs on communities of color. Congratulations to Green Rose and Ivy Hall, and we look forward to welcoming many more social equity-owned dispensaries to our great state." End quote. That from the mouth of our newly re-elected Governor J.B. Pritzker. And look, We've talked a lot on the show about the prices of Illinois cannabis. I understand people have their qualms with it, especially medical patients. It's higher than a lot of places in the country. I get that. And as came up in my second episode where I spoke with Pam Althoff, director of the Cannabis Business Association of Illinois, she said right in episode 2 there that as more and more licenses for dispensaries were issued in Illinois, the price point would come down. And now that we're getting these, especially social equity applicants, the competition among these businesses is going to drive the prices down. But, and this is a key point here, you look at Colorado, you look at Massachusetts, the value of their cannabis products is free-falling. The price point of their products is well below what the standard is. And as I've talked with other guests about too, the product on the store shelves is suffering. When you let anybody become a licensed dispenser, just by nature, you're going to see a dip in the average quality of product because more and more people can get their stuff on shelves. And in Illinois, they have been very stringent, as we all know, about letting new operators onto the market. But now that we're seeing these people get their licenses, they're going to be up and rolling. In the next 6 months to a year, I promise you're going to see these prices go down. So this right here, this is exactly the kind of stuff we've been waiting for. It's very exciting, and just hold tight and buy legal cannabis in Illinois because you're really going to be sitting in a great spot in terms of the quality and the price point for us consumers in this market. I fully believe that. Next up, $8.75 million in forgivable loans is available for social equity applicants. This is from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, DCEO. Also, Governor Pritzker, they jointly put out a press release saying that $8.75 million in direct forgivable loans, fully financed by the state of Illinois, will be made available to all conditionally approved social equity loan applicants in order to provide immediate access to capital. According to the announcement, pending the completion of a, quote, simplified documentation process, forgivable loan amounts between $50,000 and $500,000 will be released immediately. There are a few main differences between the original program, social equity loans, and the new direct forgivable loan program. In the old program, approved licenses were, quote, eligible, not guaranteed to receive funding. In the new cannabis social equity loan program, every participant that, quote, completes the simplified documentation process and funding disbursement steps will receive funding. The lenders also changed from financial institutions and lending partners to the state of Illinois. Interest rates in the original program were below market with no accrual grace period. The new program offers 4% after an 18-month grace period of no required payments and 0% interest. Applicants can also pursue forgiveness prior to any interest accruing. That's another difference there between the original loans, which were not forgivable. An IHGA is set to host a membership meeting. This is the Illinois Hemp Growers Association. That's IHGA. They're scheduled to host a membership meeting with 2 guest speakers early next month. This would be December. The meeting will include education, networking, updates about the industry, raffles, and a question and answer portion. IHGA's membership meeting is set for 6 to 7 p.m. on December 8th. Members can also join by Zoom if you can't get there. If you want to become a member, you can sign up at IllinoisHGA.com. For more info, you can contact the founder and CEO, Rachel Berry, by email, Rachel@IllinoisHGA.com. The 2 guest speakers for this meeting are Jared Garlish and James Forbes. Garlish is the new hemp program manager at Illinois Department of Agriculture. James Forbes is the co-founder of Tiger Fiber, which can also be found on Twitter at Tiger Fiber. The 2 speakers will share their expertise and insight into the hemp industry. So if you're interested in attending that meeting or becoming a member or even just finding out more about the group there or about any of those stories I mentioned, social equity, those loans, very exciting if you're interested in bringing a social equity dispensary to market there in Illinois, plus the new licenses that are coming to market. All very exciting stuff. And if you'd like to learn more about it, just head to IllinoisNewsJoint.com. I mentioned at the top, stepping outside of Illinois, looking into some cannabis news. I mentioned at the top of the show that some other states were looking into legalizing cannabis medicinally. Governor Beshear of Kentucky, that's one of those states. Governor Andy Beshear signed an executive order. This is news just published yesterday from when I'm recording this. November 15th, this was published around noon. Governor Andy Beshear signs an executive order legalizing medical cannabis usage in Kentucky. That's the headline of this article, which I will share. It's wave3.com that posted this, and it's out of Frankfort, Kentucky. He signed 2 executive orders on Tuesday of this week, so says the article, which will allow Kentuckians to legally use medical cannabis. The first one allows Kentuckians who meet certain criteria to possess and use small amounts of medical cannabis that was legally purchased in another state to treat specific health conditions. That starts January 1st of 2023. The governor mentions, he's quoted here saying, many have stepped forward to share their stories on how quality of life has improved because of medical cannabis, end quote. How many times have I said that on this show? Finally, we see this language starting to trickle out of officially elected bodies here, legislative offices. Very exciting stuff. The second executive order has to do with regulating the sale of Delta 8. That is it contains THC, but at a lower level than typical cannabis. It also has to do with, Delta 9 is the naturally occurring THC substances in, cannabis plants. Delta 8 is synthetic. Delta 8 is lab grown, as far as I understand. So it's worth noting that also in this article it says THC is not a controlled substance in Kentucky nor under federal law, and Beshear said a court had ruled that it is legal in Kentucky. And another state nearby to Illinois, Wisconsin. The governor there pledges to put cannabis legalization in upcoming budget after voters approve reform on the ballot. This was something that came up during the midterm elections on the 8th. I didn't get to this in last week's episode, but the newly re-elected governor of Wisconsin, that would be Tony Evers, reaffirming his commitment to legalizing cannabis in the state. Now, I'm reading this from the publication Marijuana Moment. However, I am editorializing here, changing the word usage of marijuana to cannabis, because as I've discussed many times on this show, and as I argue in an opinion essay that I recently wrote and will be publishing soon, marijuana is a dirty word, and I'm tired of using it, and I'm using cannabis, and anytime I'm reading from articles now, I'm going to editorialize and change the word usage to cannabis because it's neutral, and frankly, it's just a better word choice without so much pesky baggage from a past loaded with manufactured misconceptions and negative connotations like I've talked about before. But anyway, back to the topic at hand here. Wisconsin's governor reaffirming that pledge just a day after voters across Wisconsin approved non-binding advisory questions on local ballots in favor of legalizing cannabis. Governor Evers discussed the issue at a press conference. When he was asked about his forthcoming budget proposal for 23 through 25, Evers said it will be one that, quote, includes legalizing cannabis, and lawmakers will have a chance to talk about that and see if that's something we want to do. The quote continues, at some point in time, the will of the people will become the law of the land. Evers said all of that on Wednesday of last week. So I just wanted to bring that up. Kentucky's governor signs an executive order legalizing medical cannabis, and Wisconsin's governor says that they will look in the budget, they will look at legalizing cannabis for Wisconsin as well to see if lawmakers and the will of the people can become the law of the land there soon too. Now it's time to share with you my strain of the week, and I'm recording this episode the morning of November 16th. I've got my coffee cup here, just some basic coffee to pair with my cannabis. Listener, if you've been listening to the show here for a while, you know that cannabis and coffee is my preferred combination to start the day, and today I am sharing both of those with you, so cheers. And on to the strain of the week here. I typically lean towards sativas, and that is continued this week. Again, I have spoken about the oversimplification of categorizing cannabis into indicas and sativas. There are hundreds of substances in the various strains, and it's kind of foolish. It's just ridiculous to just shove them into one box or the other, and that's why I'm encouraged as we start to categorize things by terpenes and by flavor profiles and whether they were grown indoor or outdoor or whatnot. But in the meantime, the main form of categorization is still between indicas and sativas and hybrids, so I'm going to keep going with that for now. And this falls under the sativa category, less of a hybrid, more of a pure sativa, and this is Love Affair. I grabbed another pack of these dog walkers, Green Thumb Industries product here that are available at most dispensaries, the Rise dispensary, Sunnyside, certainly. I've gotten them at both places. And they're these tiny joints. They're about, 0.3, 0.25 grams sometimes. They vary in length, but basically, you're looking at something that's going to give you anywhere between 6 and maybe 10 hits, depending on how deep the draw is. And it should last you about the same amount of time as it might take you to walk your dog. Or if you don't have a dog, walk walk around the block or just kind of do a 5 to 10 minute dip outside. It's just even smaller than a cigarette or a typical joint. These are just sort of little pick-me-ups, little baby joints, and I'm a huge fan of these dog walkers from GTI. Also, a little benefit from buying these dog walkers is that they donate a portion of each sale to deserving animal shelters across the country, so you can help out some deserving pets as well every time you buy some of these products. But anyway, Love Affair. The lineage is a cross between Alien Rock Candy and Gorilla Glue, number 4, and some of the listed aromas and tastes are cedar and roasted marshmallow. I've seen that come up on a few different cannabis sites here. I wrote down when I was smoking this earlier in the week a bit of a spicy taste, and I think that roasted marshmallow is dead on there. They're also listed are kind of a sweet and berry taste. I got much less of that. There wasn't a lot of sweetness with Love Affair. I got kind of a spicy campfire roasted marshmallow thing. There's a little bit of sweetness, but there is kind of a spice in the back of the throat. The aroma listed cedar, candy, and earth. I do get the cedar and the earth. There's a bit of a woodiness there, kind of smells like you're in the woods after a rain. And the effects listed are calm, uplifted, and happy. What I wrote down when I smoked this earlier in the week was creative, spacey. I wrote down spicy, gasoline light, unleaded, if you will, for the taste. And I found this put me at a pleasant cruising altitude. This is the first time I've probably written that down, but I enjoyed it. The terpenes listed, caryophyllene, humulene, and limonene. Those kind of lend themselves to those effects of the uplifted but calm and happy. And that's where I found my mentality at that time earlier in the week when I smoked this as well. Creative and spacey, and just kind of in a nice place to start the day. Not jittery energy, although I do probably have some of that from the coffee right now, but otherwise this kind of calms down, and I do enjoy the kind of roasted marshmallow taste, the sweetness. It's not over the top. I do tend to prefer those citrusy, fruity strains. I tend to like those, but this one, as I mentioned, it's got a spice with a little bit of sweetness underneath, and I kind of enjoy that as well, and I certainly enjoy the effects that it provides. So Love Affair, look for this at your local dispensary, but if you're looking for a calm and uplifting energy with a bit of a roasted marshmallow and cedar flavor, Love Affair is the strain of the week. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And hey, before we get into this interview, listener, I wanted to mention to you, are you in the market for a new cannabis product? Maybe your grinder is getting a bit sticky, resistant to your efforts to grind up some herb. Maybe you dropped your bowl. Happened to all of us, maybe it broke a bit and your inhales are now a bit wonky, can't get a good hit off of it. Or maybe you're just looking for a new bong, just looking for a nice piece to add to your collection. I understand, maybe you want to shop local, but the convenience of online shopping is definitely hard to beat. If you want all of the above, check out 420pipes.com. They have some great pieces there on sale every day for $4.20. That's where the name comes from. And you can shop local, smoke local as they call it. There's a drop-down menu in the corner, and you can input your zip code and basically find cannabis shops near you and order any products that they have, and they'll be delivered to your door. So you get the convenience of online shopping plus the support of local businesses, which is something I think we all want to do more. And if you use the promo code CannabisMan, you can knock 10% off your cart order. So yeah, next time you're looking for that, remember, 420pipes.com. Promo code CannabisMan. One final note before we get into the interview, I wanted to let you know, listener, there were some technical difficulties during the recording of this interview here. I did my best to kind of edit out any issues. I cut out big portions of this interview with Cory, and I had to raise the levels up. So I just wanted to give you that heads up. If you do hear anything strange or you sort of something sticks out in your mind during the conversation in terms of background noise or anything like that, you can likely attribute it to that. And if you do hear anything strange or would like to give feedback, always available at C-Man Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, or you can email host@cannabismanpodcast.com. Listener, I am very excited to speak with my next guest, and I know that you are going to get a lot from his story as well. This is a man who has a very tough journey, who has had a tough journey, and was helped along in a massive capacity in healing from some trauma, some brain injuries, and ultimately just got a lot of help and got back to a great quality of life from a very different place with the help of CBD. And he's here today to kind of share a little bit about about his journey and just how cannabis has changed his life. Listener, please welcome the CBD surfer, Cory Getz. Welcome, Cory.
Yeah, perfect. How are you doing?
Great, man. Thank you again. Really appreciate you jumping on. So I mentioned, you're the CBD surfer and everything, and you're out in California. You're loving the surf. I take it. Just kind of want to get to know you a little bit. Tell us about how cannabis came into your life.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in California, specifically Long Beach, and I've been an ocean boy from a very young age. I probably started surfing around 7, maybe 8. We switched from big boogie boards to surfboards as soon as we saw the guy standing up on the surfboards. We were like, we got to ditch these boogie boards and get on those surfboards. And so yeah, I've been riding waves my whole life. Included with that is a lifestyle that includes herbal medication. I'm kind of in with the reggae crew, and lifelong users of cannabis. And tell you the truth, we kind of knew back then it was beneficial for you, even though the research hadn't caught up. But mentally, physically, and it was improving our lives. And we were being told that it was wrong, illegal, and farcy. And lo and behold, our government has a patent on CBD and stroke recovery that nobody knows about. And so that's one of the main reasons I'm here today, to speak to you on behalf of stroke recovering patients worldwide, that you need to invest in some good CBD and in a hurry, and get that in your system. And this is not just a rehab thing. This is a lifelong thing that you're going to be on. Your life will benefit from CBD in so many different ways, but you really need to invest your time into looking into quality CBD. There's a whole bunch of CBD out there that's what would you say?
Not up to snuff, let's say. Not the best.
Gas station, so if you're in a legal state, start at the dispensaries, because at least in California, everything through the dispensary has to be tested. And so different forms of CBD. So there's isolate, and then there's full spectrum. Full spectrum would be everything that's included in the plant, everything. All right, and the isolate is they use a machine to isolate and extract the CBD from the rest of the plant. And I'm a big proponent of everything in the plant has to go in your body. Right?
Gotcha. So you're full spectrum. You're in favor of that.
Yes, correct.
Gotcha.
And if you're going to do hemp, if you're afraid of the THC, I understand that, and you want to go hemp, then I have recommendations for a good hemp CBD that I would take. But I personally take cannabis CBD, full spectrum cannabis CBD. That specifically is manufactured in Oakland from small organically grown, sun-grown cannabis farms in Northern California, mostly Humboldt and Mendocino.
The Emerald Triangle, I just found out.
Right, and where the good stuff is.
Yes, yeah, very cool.
Not some corporate grown, guys, once you find out what the plant intakes, and meaning you need to be concerned about where you're buying and where your weed is grown. You really need to open your eyes and start to think about what you're putting in your body, because I know it's great and all and cheap on the illegal market, but that being said, you would be better off growing your own. Because at least you would know what's in it.
Well said. Yeah, totally. It's sort of like the gardening thing, right?
I believe the future is, you have no idea how much you can get off just 2 plants. I got 2 plants in the backyard and probably yield a couple pounds.
Cory, let's back up just a smidge. So you mentioned that you're here on behalf of stroke victims worldwide, kind of. Can you share with us a little bit about what happened with you and how the stroke came about and what that was like for you?
Oh yeah. Okay. So the day of the stroke. Let's see. It was just a normal day, and I specifically remember walking down the hallway, and I just lost my balance out of nowhere. I stumbled into the wall, like you would if you were drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually had said, I used to drink a lot. I don't drink anymore, but I kind of blamed it on that, and lo and behold, that day I wasn't really drinking, but
right.
I was like, oh, I must have had one too many.
Right.
So and even my wife even noticed that I did that, and she had me turn around and asked me to smile, asked me to hold up my right arm, asked me if I was in pain. So she was like, she noticed for sure that something was off, and then we just blew it off. Like, man, oh man, that's just, guys, you have 3 hours in which to get to the hospital. They can do something. They can do something for strokes, Find it with their little CT scanner. They can go in there and do invasive things, and they can also do blood thinners, and there's a couple other therapies that I'm not sure that I'm aware of, but
okay.
There's a couple others.
So you're saying 3 hours is important, though?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Very important.
Okay,
Right.
so is what happened with you? Were you able to get there in about that time?
No, I decided that I should go rest. Yeah, so I was adamant that I go to sleep. It was very inappropriate timing, and I really regret that decision. The next morning I woke up and things weren't much better. I was in a horrible mood. We still didn't recognize that I'm in the middle of a stroke. So my wife went to work. I just kept on getting worse and worse throughout the day. Later in the day, I finally call her on the phone to tell her, like, I don't know what I was going to tell her, but when I did, she had told me that I can't understand you. You're slurring too much. You have to go to the doctor.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and I didn't even notice that I wasn't speaking correctly.
Wow.
And so here's another mistake. I drove myself to the doctor.
Yikes.
Right?
Yeah.
And on my way to the doctor, I was having trouble with the brake and the accelerator. Luckily, this doctor is maybe just like 3 blocks away. All the stop signs, no major roads. But
that's good.
In retrospect, I was like, man, oh man, what the.
Could have been a lot worse.
Right. And so I get to the doctor's office, and they said, okay, sign in. And then I remember this is going to make me cry. All right, so I go to the counter, and they said, okay, sign in. And I had trouble picking up the pen, and then I said, well, that's funny. I can't sign my name. I can't make my hand sign my name.
Oh man!
And then the whole office explodes. Like everybody gets up like immediately, and the door opens. It's just like all hands on deck.
Fire drill. Yeah.
So,
that must have been so freaky though for you. Was that like the moment when you couldn't sign? Was that the moment you kind of knew like, man, something's really wrong here?
Man. I had a disbelief about it the whole time it was going on. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I let it into my consciousness that it was happening, like, because I would have acted different. Like, I think that would have unleashed a panic, that wasn't going to be beneficial.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I get that.
I decided to go with the naive, what you don't know,
what you don't know can't hurt you, kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And man, oh man, there were so many weird things going on in my body. So a lot of my concentration was on what was happening. It was wild. So I was at the doctor. So by about this time that I was getting into the room or whatever, my wife had already left the office, and she was there shortly after. And we were discharged to the hospital immediately, and that's where they did the CT scan. And I know this is in the middle of a full-on life-threatening episode, but when they admitted me, so there's a stroke test, right? They bring you this picture, and they ask you to explain what's going on in the picture. In this picture is crazy, all right? So It's like a mom washing dishes, but the dishes are breaking, and the dog's barking. And there's all sorts of chaos in this picture. It's really quite comical. It's very funny, and they showed it to me and asked me to explain what I could in this picture. And I specifically remember, and I just ended up I just couldn't control my laughter at that point. I was just cracking up, and I didn't understand why, because I was having these weird things going on in my brain,
Sure.
my body.
Yeah.
But it was, at least I had a good memory, you know.
Yeah, it's sort of a positive. You got to laugh from it, I suppose.
The rest was, like being in a CT scanner.
Right. It's not a fun experience being in there.
I choose to remember this one specifically because it was so very funny.
That's good. That's a positive choice, I think.
Right. So the next day I was half paralyzed. I mean, my right hand side. My leg, my arm, and not so much the speech, although it was affected, but it wasn't greatly affected. Definitely my blood pressure, my heat, being able to control my heat in my body. There was like muscle tremors. A lot of these have faded away since.
So did the doctors, did they give you, after the CT scan and after you kind of were at the hospital, were they able to tell you anything about what brought it on or what might have caused it or anything?
I had high cholesterol and I still smoked cigarettes, but just not regularly. I don't know. I mean, that's probably going to be the end result, is that, smoking.
Sure. Okay, but so how?
I wasn't smoking a lot, but
yeah, I get you.
A definite factor, right?
For sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So how? I guess how long ago did this happen to you? How long away removed are we from this?
Yeah, May 1st, 2019. So
wow, a little over 3 years ago.
3 years.
Okay.
May Day.
Yeah, May Day, right. So obviously, I can't imagine how that must have sort of felt when you woke up the next day and half your body's paralyzed. And
yeah, I'll tell. I don't know how to tell you. Like, man, oh man, I know what my body was like, and I know my body was all half of it was, but I still had that disbelief that I was going to get it all back.
Yeah, it probably just didn't seem real, I'm guessing.
Yeah, right when my wife showed up, the very first thing out of my mouth was, I'm going to surf by my birthday. And that was 6 months later, which at the time I said it, I don't know that I said it with conviction and like I meant it, but I didn't know if it was possible. But I knew that's what I'm aiming for.
Sure.
I'm gonna do it in 6 months. Right?
Well, that's awesome. I mean, you had a goal kind of already. I think that's kind of impressive, something you were already shooting for.
Yeah, right out the bat. And I was shooting for surfing, so let me explain my stroke then. I had a pontine stroke, which was a brain stem stroke, which is a little bit different than the hemorrhages and isotomic strokes, right? Brain stem, this would be a Luke Perry stroke. Everything in the brain stem there's a lot more value in small areas of the brain stem. So it really controls breathing, heart rate. Every one of your nerve, anytime you're moving your arms, legs, or feet, or whatever, the signal goes from your brain through the brainstem. So I'm very lucky to be able to. That's what kind of makes my story a little more incredible, is that I was able to get the movement back, get it back so fast. Now, so I didn't use tremendous amounts of CBD. We're talking under 30 or 40 milligrams, but it was a full spectrum cannabis CBD, but it wasn't a tremendous amount. And you're going to want to look for the acidic form of CBD, CBDA, lowercase a. You want to look for that and it'll be in the terpene profile. Hopefully, if you buy good CBD, it'll break down what's in it.
Good to know. CBDA. Okay.
Right. And
so when did this get prescribed at any point? How did CBD come into the picture for recovery?
My doctors, none of them had mentioned CBD as an option or as they either hadn't heard about it or and they also didn't offer me anything for my recovery. I mean, they gave me blood thinners, and they gave me statins to keep my cholesterol down, but they didn't give me any anything that really help in your recovery. They were just like, hey, you got about a year to recover, and after a year you don't get much back, and so you want to do your best right off the bat, and good luck, pretty much. After I did my recovery, and by the way, guys, 108 days from learning how to walk to the first time I rode a surfboard.
That's incredible. That's incredible. You said you set a goal for your birthday, and 108 days is less than 6 months. So were you able to do that?
Yeah, and in fact, that included a week or two of begging my wife that I could go do it. You know?
Yeah, right. That's incredible.
When I was cool, I was on a top level CIA, competing for the championships in California, and swim team water polo was it. And when it comes to workouts and high level workouts, I'm there.
Those are intense, man. Water polo is like one of the most intense sports there is. There's so much aerobic activity there.
Yeah, that's why kind of when I finally got recovered enough where I could get in the pool, I started doing all my rehab more in the pool, because you could do your legs, arms, hands all at the same time. Right.
All your movement is resisted by the water, totally.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So when you use every bit of your energy, all of it, and you're just spent and you're so tired you can't move, right? I contribute that feeling to some of the best days of surfing that I've ever, So to me, that feeling is benefit. I love that feeling. That's what a feeling I search for, because I attribute to my best days of surfing. So when I was doing the rehab, I was aiming for that.
So you said you take tinctures for was that for your THC or both?
The RSO, if you're not familiar with it, it's a high.
From what I've heard, it's kind of like a mix of wax and oil, kind of a texture, like a little roll sort of thing, and it's high dosage. Is that right?
Yeah.
Which sounds really interesting to me. I haven't tried it myself, but I know others who have, and they swear by that, especially for things like body pain.
Yeah, and then some of my other friends, and they have been treating their cancer with it. One more thing about if any of you are out there are on the path to recovery, positive thinking, guys. Positive. I can't stress this enough about do not talk to your body negatively, because it's going to respond to that. I mean, part of that recovery was the incredible mindset that I had of we're doing this. We don't care what the doctor said. We don't care what anybody said. We're in charge of our destiny, and our destiny goes this direction. And they can say what they want, but we're not accepting that, right?
Yeah, I think that's so amazing. I just think that there's a little bit of overlap or a parallel there almost with growing any plants, but imagine the cannabis in your backyard. That positive reinforcement. It's almost as if it sounds like, your body, your mind, like us, we respond to that positivity and that encouragement the same way that plants do.
Right. Yeah, I had listened to reggae my whole life. I'm a reggae. I'm Rasta all the way.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my music has the undertones and positivity and wellness and goodness of life and treating people with kindness and love. And so I carry that with me in my soul, and I think that it came through in my recovery,
Yeah, I would say so too. Just talking with you this little bit that I have, Cory, I have to agree with that. And I just think that anybody who takes part in your upcoming traumatic brain injury groups out in California, I think they're going to benefit from it as well.
When I get that going, I want to call it, let's check back in
absolutely.
I'd love 6 months.
Absolutely.
You re-up and see where we're at.
Yeah, sign me up. I definitely will. I'd love to hear how it's going, and I'm really excited for you. I'm happy for you that you've had this recovery, and I'm really excited that you found this calling in life in general. But it's related to the journey that you've gone through both times, and you can share your experience and all that you've learned on this, on the trials that you've gone through with others who are going to be in need of that help as well.
I got one more thing. Yeah,
right on. Bring it.
Before you sign off, all right, because I just recently I surfed in a surf contest, guys. All right.
Oh, nice.
Story has not got to the surfing world yet. Yeah, I mean the pot and the CBD people, they love me. All right, I can get interviews over here all day, but I haven't got to the surfing world. So I entered this contest, and there was 12 guys over 50 that entered, and I got 5th. So my recovery is valid, guys.
That's really, really incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
dude, I mean, that's a great note for certain. And it just adds to, like you said, I mean, it validates your recovery on a whole nother level, because not only are you just sort of like able of getting through your day, but I mean, you entered a competition against able-bodied, as you said, and you came in 5th. That's incredible. Good for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, listen, Cory Getz, the CBD surfer, dude, really, really awesome to talk with you. I usually like to end these interviews with some quick hits, just some quick yes or no questions, like, some favorite things you like to do or whatever. Are you game to go through this real quick at the end here?
Absolutely, sure.
Awesome. First quick hit, morning bird or night owl? Which are you right now?
Oh, morning, yeah.
Morning bird. Okay, right on.
I go surf at like 5 a.m. Yeah.
Oh, catch the sunrise?
Yeah, so I'm up at like 3:30 or 4 o'clock getting ready to go.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I relate, not to the surfing necessarily, but getting up early. I love both the dawn and the dusk of the day. I love that stuff. Favorite cuisine, meal, or restaurant, if it's your birthday, if it's a special occasion, or you're celebrating something like coming in 5th in the surf competition, what's a place that you really want to get, or a meal that you really want to have?
Yeah, we'll go to King's Fish House and get sea bass, the miso sea bass, yeah.
Oh, okay. Miso sea bass. That sounds good. I love seafood. And there in California, it's got to be top notch all the time, I'm sure. Drug of choice, I usually ask this. I ask to everybody whether this might be tea or coffee in the morning, or wine or beer at dinner. I know you said you don't drink very much anymore, but like your daily fix. And I mean, this can be the CBD that you were talking about, or anything else. What do you go to?
Herb. Yeah, I mean, I smoke. I smoke 24/7. They took away caffeine. Caffeine really still affects me. Like it makes one of my legs like do weird movements, and so the only thing I do nowadays is just THC.
Right on. Yeah, straight cannabis. Hey, stick with the best, right? Yeah. Why mess with that? Music. You said reggae actually, so let me pivot there. What do you watch? Movies, TV? Favorite movie or something that comes on that you're always happy to watch? What do you like?
We'll go with Pretty Woman.
Pretty Woman. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. What a classic.
I mean, I can always watch that.
Yeah, that's dude. I haven't heard that one in a long time. That is a classic movie. And then, and final quick hit here. Sports. I know we talked a little about your activity earlier and stuff, and surfing is, I know, kind of a regular thing for you on the daily. But as any other kinds of activities that you like to do?
Oh yeah. We go hiking a bunch. Like soccer, skiing.
Nice.
I mean, I'm not active. I haven't done skiing since my stroke, so I'm going to do that this year, and that's one of my goals this year is to go test that. But yeah, no, I'm quite athletic. I love all sports.
Right on. Yeah, no, it sounds like that, dude. And just again, you've hit the 5th in a surfing contest back. I'm sure if there's a skiing contest wherever at whatever resort you end up at, I put my money on you placing in that one too.
I just want to beat my son. That's all.
Right on. How old is your son?
Oh, he's like 26.
26. Okay, cool. All right, so he's about half. He's about half the age. I get it. So you're going up against the youth. That's a good measurement. I like that.
Yeah, he'll get me one of these days.
For sure. That's the way of things for sure. But she's still.
Not. I mean, it's cool. I mean, my recovery is awesome if I can beat him.
Yeah, absolutely. Either way, you kind of win, right? Either way, you win because your recovery's good, or your son, wins.
He wins either way too, because your dad's either the coolest dad or
you beat him, and that makes you pretty cool for the day. So yeah, I mean that is a win-win for both you guys, and that's really exciting for you. And I just wanted to say again, Cory Getz, the CBD surfer, thank you again for jumping on the show, man, and sharing with us today.
Excellent. Thank you. I really appreciate all your time.
And you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Enjoy, my friends. Bye, you guys.
Yes, indeed. Listener, once again, I want to thank my guest, Cory Getz, the CBD surfer, as he goes by. What an inspiring story. What a great guy. I just find his story so inspiring. I think that there are some powerful lessons there. You know, we all, unfortunately, hit roadblocks in life. Obstacles make themselves known at different points. Nobody's journey is perfectly smooth, and I just think that the attitude that Cory showed during, this whole thing, and kind of his motivation, his approach to recovery, and just the perspective that he kept, trying to see the positive and, trying to motivate himself that way. I just thought that was wonderful, and I think we can all learn something from that. So if you're interested in finding out more about Cory, he mentioned he's very active on Instagram, Cory the CBD Surfer, Cory the CBD Surfer. He referenced during the interview the traumatic brain injury support group that he's been involved with. That is up and going now, and there's a link to a YouTube page where you can find out more about that on Cory's Instagram profile. So again, at Cory the CBD Surfer for anybody who's interested in, what his life is like now and kind of the impact that he's having on other people's lives and the education that he's providing in terms of his experience and recovery. And that'll do it for this week's episode. I want to thank you so much for listening to the show. If you like what I'm doing here, please share it. Anybody you know who likes podcasts, or if you have any friends who might be interested in the topics we cover or some of the guests I've spoken with, do me a favor and help spread the word. I would definitely appreciate any help you can offer in that regard. So have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you might be listening to this. Thank you again for checking it out, and tune in next week for another episode of the Cannabis Man Podcast. Bye-bye. Cannabis Man is an original production of myself, Don Kleppen. Original theme music by Yusu Kim, aka Goodson. Other music by Pat Perez, and logo designed by Vorbroker Media. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe, and share whenever you can.